You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3, episode 43. Cub fans let down in the loo. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook. Or email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Well, Crawly, thankfully, I guess the Cubs only played 2 games down in the loo, and things did not go Cub fans' way, and it all started not going their way on Friday night when the game was rained out.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Dustin, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I honestly think that was a blessing in disguise, that the way that this Cub team is playing right now. I don't want them playing more games. I want them playing less, to be honest with you. It's a mess right now.
Yeah, things are not good, and they're going to start a 4-game series in Milwaukee later today on Monday as we're recording this thing. Okay, so game 1 rained out. It's going to be made up as part of a doubleheader July 13th down in the loo. So we fast forward a little bit to game number 2, and this was on Saturday night down in St. Louis, a national TV affair on Fox.
Yeah, hopefully everyone was listening to Pat and Ron on 670 The Score. You could avoid the Adam Wainwright. But, James Taillon versus Miles Mikolas. And Dustin, I've mentioned this a couple times, how it just seems like this team all season just has not been firing on all cylinder. If the offense is working, then the starting pitching's broken. If the starting pitching's broken, then the relief's broken. It's nonstop. Something always seems to be wrong. And lately it's been the offense, but that wasn't the case on Saturday night. It was the bullpen that really hurt them. And this game was classic, Dustin, classic Cubs versus Cardinals game. Yep. For those of us that have lived through this series for many, many years. Usually it doesn't matter what the records are. You got just something comes out between these two teams. Unfortunately, the Cubs came out on the short end on this one. The Cardinals were first to strike in the 3rd inning with 1 out. The Cards hit back-to-back singles, put runners at the cold corners. Paul Goldschmidt would ground out to make it 1-0 Cardinals. A Nolan Arenado single would put the Cardinals up 2-0. But the Cubs would strike back in the 3rd. Mike Tauchman would hit a leadoff single. He would steal second with 2 outs. Christopher Morel walked, and then Nico Horner hit a double to score both runners, and the game was tied. Michael Busch would hit an RBI single to drive in Horner, and the Cubs were up 3-2. Takes us to the bottom of the 6th. 1 out. Nolan Gorman singled, stole second. Taillon got Ivan Herrera to ground out for the 2nd out. I warned everyone about Mason Wynn. He was on the hot list, a really, good-looking young shortstop for the Cardinals. He singled to tie the game at 3. Taillon's day was done. He went 5 2/3 inning, gave up 9 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, and 3 Ks. Had he gotten Wynn out, that would have been a quality start, Dustin.
Yeah, that was just that one batter that ends up fouling up his evening and fouling things up, I guess, for the Cubs a little bit.
Right. In the top of the 7th, Andrew Kittredge came in to replace Miles Mikolas, who went 6 innings pitched and gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks. So quality start for Mikolas. With 1 out, Michael Busch reached when Paul Goldschmidt dropped a throw, a little uncharacteristic there. Dansby Swanson would walk. 2 on, 1 out for Patrick Wisdom, who doubled. Busch scores and Dansby goes to 3rd. Cubs are up 4-3. You got a runner at 3rd, 1 out, and Miguel Amaya struck out, and Mike Tauchman grounded out to end the threat. That is going to come back to bite the Cubs. The Cubs also had more chances to add runs in the 8th. Seiya leads off with the single. Cody Bellinger's up to bat, and a ball bounces in the dirt, and Seiya just started running when he saw the ball bounce. But unfortunately, it bounced right off the chest protector of Ivan Herrera. Perfectly threw out Suzuki for the 1st out. And then, wouldn't you know it, the next 2 Cubs batters, Cody Bellinger and Christopher Morel, singled. That probably would have scored a run.
Yeah, it scores another run for sure.
Unfortunately, Nico struck out and Michael Busch would ground out, and the runners were stranded. Dustin, that takes us to the bottom of the 8th. Cubs are up 4-3, and Craig Counsell calls on his best bullpen arm that they've had all season, right? Mark Leiter. There's no.
And I can't listen, and there's nothing wrong with him doing that, right? I'm not going to second guess him that he didn't do the right thing, that Leiter should have had the 9th or anything like that. I think that's when he should have put Mark Leiter in the game.
We all would have done the same thing, and unfortunately, it wasn't Leiter's night. He gave up back-to-back singles. He strikes out Ivan Herrera and gets Mason Wynn to pop out. So now you only need 1 out to get out of the inning. Ali Marmol decides to pinch hit veteran Matt Carpenter. Those of you who remember, he's back with the Cardinals. They brought him in the offseason. Carpenter always had that crappy salsa, nowhere near as good as the Salsa King. But he comes on, he gets a single to right.
And they had to make a big deal about how he doesn't wear batting gloves and on
Right.
and on and on about how he doesn't wear batting gloves.
Right, the worst. And he just manages to get a pinch hit, but Seiya was in good position. He throws home. Dustin, it just wasn't a good throw. And it was in the left-handed batter's box. It hopped about 3 times before getting to Amaya. And Alec Burleson just beat the tag by Amaya to tie the game. But I think a good throw and a better tag by Amaya, he would have been out at the plate.
Right.
That's when things go completely off the rails. Brendan Donovan would single to score Gorman and Carlson to make it 6-4. Porter Hodge came into the game. He threw a wild pitch and gave up a triple to Lars Nootbaar. You knew we weren't going to go the series without saying his name before getting Paul Goldschmidt to strike out. But by that time, the damage is done. The Cardinals score 4 runs in the 8th and take a 7-4 lead. Again, Counsell pushes all the right buttons. It just, before this game, in his 6 appearances in May, Dustin, he only you're talking about Leiter only gave up 1 run, for 6 games.
Right.
It just didn't happen on Saturday night. So the Cubs, they had one last shot in the 9th, and hey, they fought back. Dansby and Nick Madrigal started off the inning with back-to-back singles. Ian Happ came off the bench to pinch hit, but flied out to center. Mike Tauchman singled to score Dansby, and now the Cubs are down 7-5 with Madrigal at second. Seiya hit a line shot to the outfield. It would have been a homer at Wrigley. Unfortunately, this was played at Busch. So with 2 outs, Cody Bellinger keeps it alive. He singles to score Madrigal. Mike Tauchman moves to third. The Cubs are down 7-6, tying run at third base. Unfortunately, there was no joy in Wrigleyville. Christopher Morel would ground out, and that would be the final. Cardinals would win 7-6.
Right, and as you had said, that was just a classic Cubs-Cardinals game. Back and forth, lots of ebbs and flows, and unfortunately, Cubs on the wrong end of this one.
Yeah, it came down to the final out, like I said, tying 1 run 90 feet away and just didn't happen. So takes us to game 3, Javier Assad versus Sonny Gray. The Cubs are going to lose this one 4-3. They were supposed to play Sunday Night Baseball at 6:10, but bad weather in St. Louis delayed the start to 8:43. Dustin, did you see that Buster Olney video where the rain was just pouring down
the steps into the clubhouse? Yeah, they said it was like the world's biggest toilet had just flushed. Somebody on social media had showed. I thought that was pretty funny.
Right, that's why they call it the Lou. But when you're taking a look here at this one, the Cubs and Cardinals, they both have to play 3:10 on Memorial Day. So God knows when that flight gets in, they're probably both going to be exhausted. St. Louis flying to Cincinnati and the Cubs coming into Milwaukee. So we'll see what happens. But there's a big pitching matchup, Javier Assad versus Sonny Gray. The Cardinals struck first in the bottom of the 3rd with 1 out. Alec Burleson singled. And then Paul Goldschmidt. It doesn't matter how crappy his season's going. He's always licking his chop to face the Cubs. He hit 1, Dustin, on the 3rd deck. This was right by the Big Mac sign. For those of you that remember the home run chase in 98, they put that afterwards. But that Big Mac territory, that's a home run.
Yeah, and Goldschmidt's not been having a great year. Him and Arenado have been struggling power-wise.
Right. And so that puts the Cubs down 2-0. Paul Goldschmidt would strike again, this time in the 5th inning. Brandon Donovan, leadoff walk. Alec Burleson popped out for the first out, but then Goldschmidt hits his 2nd home run of the game, and the Cubs are down 4-0. Assad would go 5 innings, give up 4 runs on 5 hits with 3 walks and 8 Ks. But this was Paul Goldschmidt accounted for 2 of the 5 hits and all 4 runs.
Yeah, I just don't understand the second time around, right? Take a different approach with the guy, maybe, just maybe. I'm not saying you got to walk him, but I mean, you have to throw something down Main Street.
Yeah, that was brutal. And so Assad allowed more than 2 earned runs, Dustin, in the game for the first time since September 12th of last season.
And again, so it's hard to kill the guy, right? It's just unfortunate that he and Leiter have, their first bad games in such a long time on back-to-back nights against the Cardinals on national TV with a team that really needed a win.
Right. The Cubs offense, Dustin, they had their opportunities to score some runs off Sonny Gray and the Cardinals' pen, but only Ian Happ was able to cash in. In the 2nd with 1 out, Nico reached on an error by Mason Wynn and Ian Happ walk. Dansby struck out, but Nico stole 3rd. So you got runners at the corners with 2 outs. Wisdom's going to single. Morel's going Morel's going to single, and then Nico drew a walk. So, that's, you got that in the second, the fourth. I mean, all sorts of opportunities to catch in. But the one that bothered me, Dustin, is in the fourth inning when Cody Bellinger singled and Morel singled and Nico. So, you got 2 on, 1 out, and then Sonny Gray catches Cody leaning off of second. They get him in a rundown, but Cody gets by Arenado's tag. He reaches third safely, but the ump said Cody ran out of the baseline.
Terrible call. Terrible call. Why? How is that not reviewable?
I don't know. And
bad call.
Yeah, and Ron Darling and the Cubs fans couldn't believe that call. He kind of just contorted his body a little bit, but he wasn't like clearly out of the baseline.
No, maybe he took one step to his left or whatever it was. He took one step.
Is he supposed to run into,
if he runs him over, then what? So if he runs into him and takes the ball out of the guy's mitt, then that's okay. We're back to that now.
The umpiring, and I'm not trying to use it as an excuse, it just has to get better, Dustin. The Cubs don't need anything else going against them, much less a bad call by an ump. Right now, they need all the help they can get. So that's the thing that's frustrating. And so, now that was it. The inning ended, fizzled out there. The Cubs didn't get on the board until the 7th inning. They're trailing 4-0. Nico had a 1-out single, and Ian Happ, for some odd reason, he loves hitting in the division. He homered to cut the Cardinals lead in half, 4-2. Then with 1 out in the 8th, Michael Tauchman and Seiya Suzuki hit back-to-back singles. Cody Bellinger lined out, but Christopher Morel was hit by a pitch. So, you got 2 outs here, and Nico Horner grounds out to end the inning. Just another threat that just didn't come to fruition. And so now you're down 4-2 in the 9th. Cards closer Ryan Heasley comes into the game, and Ian Happ greeted him with a solo home run. Cubs are down 4-3, so maybe some late inning magic. Dansby Swanson lined out, and Michael Busch struck out for the 2nd out, but Nick Madrigal and Mike Tauchman both singled to put runners at the corners. Tying run is 90 feet away. Seiya Suzuki lines out to end the game. Cubs lose 4-3. They out-hit the Cardinals 8-6, but they were 0-for-6 with runners in scoring position.
There's that stat.
The bullpen, I thought, did a good job keeping the Cubs in it. Drew Smyly back, pitching 2 scoreless innings, and Porter Hodge with a scoreless inning of work. I think Porter's looked really good. He gave up a triple to Paul Goldschmidt. But, those things are going to happen. But, unfortunately, they couldn't get the big hit. Javier Assad had no answers for Paul Goldschmidt. Christopher Morel 0-for-3. Dansby Swanson 0-for-4. Patrick Wisdom 0-for-3 with 3 strikeouts. Yan Gomes 0-for-3. That's 4 guys in the lineup, Dustin, that don't have a hit.
Yeah, I was surprised that Wisdom struck out 3 times, and the catching position's just got to get better. They are getting absolutely nothing on the offensive side from the catcher's position, not a thing.
Right, and like I said earlier when we started, I'm glad Friday's game got rained out. I'd rather take my chances with a doubleheader in July.
Well, it's a holiday weekend. It's the first day of the holiday weekend. I just wanted some Cubs baseball. That's all. I don't disagree with you. We might be talking about a sweep right now. Instead of just losing, 2, and you don't say they got swept because the other game didn't happen. They lost. They got swept in the 2 games they played, but it could be worse than it was. So
the Cubs are just ice cold. They've lost 9 of their last 12 games. They've lost 4 straight series in a row. In that same span, we're talking about 2 weeks, the Cubs have only 2 hitters hitting over 250. Dansby Swanson and Nick Madrigal.
And Swanson just came back, right? He wasn't even part of that whole thing. He's only been back for like a week.
Right. 4 of those everyday hitters are hitting under 200. And the Cubs have got to get it figured out. Now you got, like you said, 4-game series coming up in Milwaukee. This could be a really huge series as far as the Cubs season is concerned.
Unfortunately, you are probably correct, Crawly. Great stats and numbers that I'm sure the Craig Counsell and his staff and Carter Hawkins and Jed are going over nonstop. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. This is episode number 43 of season 3. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us one of those 5-star reviews. You can also email us at flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. In this segment, Crawly talks to Ethan Roberts, Cubs reliever, who is making his way back to the majors after recovering from Tommy John surgery on his way back to the friendly confines.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, I am happy to have on Cubs pitcher Ethan Roberts. Ethan, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Crawly. How you doing?
Doing good. You know, we do this segment to kind of introduce people that may not know some of the younger Cubs players. And so, you know, for our listeners out there, when did you really kind of realize you wanted to be a baseball player as a career? Was there a team or a player that you followed growing up?
It was just always a game that I enjoyed more than anything else. I was always too small and too scared to play football. So my dad was a big football guy and tried hard to get me to play. I played a year and I was like, yeah, I'm done, man. I can't do this. But baseball is a sport where you can be a smaller guy and kind of do whatever you need to do. So I enjoyed it. We had a good group of guys growing up that I played with. We stuck together for a little while. And it was about my sophomore year of high school. My dad was like, well, maybe he's pretty good. We may need to do something with this. And ended up going to college in a town up from where I grew up. And we had a good team. And went to a regional my last year, super regional, and got drafted by the Cubs. So now we're here.
Yeah, you know, you had a successful junior year at Texas Tech. You're taken in the 4th round of the Cubs. Is this the scout that signed you right here?
Our area guy was Alex McClure, and he's honestly one of my best dudes now. He's now with the Tigers, I believe. But the area guy that I had talked to was Alex. But yeah.
Nice. And so when you get drafted by the Cubs, did you know a lot about the organization or no?
I didn't talk to him much, honestly. I thought I was like a 16th to 18th rounder to the A's, if I'm being completely honest. And we had a really good kind of postseason, and it kind of opened a few eyes. You know, we never played on TV until that time. You know what I mean? So right. I didn't know really where I was going to go. I didn't talk to him a ton, but I'm glad I'm here.
Now, you made your professional debut in the 2018 with the Short A Eugene Emeralds, which is something I wish I would have gone to because I heard that was quite the scene. You appear in 14 games, and that team was known as the Bad News M's. And you guys make this unbelievable postseason run. And then when I was looking at the box scores of the game, it was Emmanuel Klaus, who's the closer now for the Guardians. You guys win it on a bases loaded balk. You win the championship, and you get credit for the win. You pitched a third of an inning to get that win. What was it like, that experience for you playing professionally there for the Eugene Emeralds? I mean, you know, you had a lot of guys that have made the show now. You got Nelson Velasquez, Luis Vasquez, Christopher Morel was on the team earlier in the first half, and Nico Horner. What was that experience like winning that championship and those guys on that team?
Yeah, dude, and that picture you're showing out there was my college catcher. So it was pretty sick. When I signed, we kind of got him signed after the draft. So I got to play with him again. And our college guys, we show up and we're tired from our season. And you just kind of catch a second win once you hit playoffs if you get there in your first season and short season. But playing with all those guys, man, we had a great team. Even the next year in South Bend, we had a great team. The next year in Tennessee, we had a great – it was like our draft class and the draft class after ours and the one before ours was just insane.
Yeah, a lot of championships coming up, man.
Dude,
a lot of championships.
Yeah, and it was like that kind of that same, like some of my draft, the year after's draft was Tennessee last year.
Right.
But like the team that I was with in Double-A a few years later was pretty much that team. And dude, it was insane. You know, a game gets to the 7th inning, you know it's over. You got a starter, you know you can sit in the bullpen till the 7th. You're like, oh, he's good. You know, it's like one of those teams. But it was fun to play. A lot of good players, a lot of good guys. So
now you make your way up the ladder. It was kind of different back then. South End was kind of the lowest rung. You go to Myrtle Beach after that. But when you start the 2021 season, you're with the Smokies. Now, growing up in Tennessee, did you guys ever go to a Smoky game, or did you watch it at all, or no?
Oh yeah, I went to Smokies games for sure. It's like an hour and a half from my house. Yeah.
So did you have a lot of friends and family come watch you pitch?
Oh, every time. I would go home. So like the way the season worked after COVID was it still is. You play the same team for 6 days, and then you get an off day on Monday. When we had back-to-back homestand, I would go home Sunday night, come back Tuesday morning.
Nice. And so that takes us to spring training 2022. You appeared in 5 Cactus League games, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 5 1/3 inning, allowing 0 runs. And I think for, there's the people like me and a lot of other people that kind of watch prospects and kind of watch you guys go up. But I think for the average Cub fan, the first time they kind of recognize you is in a game against the White Sox. You're pitching, you get a comebacker, hits you in the hand, but you finish the play, no big deal. Tell me what happens when you return to the dugout.
Yeah, I've been pitching well. Stuff was really good. Learning a new pitch, and it was getting to that point in camp where you come in every morning and you're waiting for somebody to tap you on the shoulder. And so I hadn't been tapped on the shoulder yet. And I had no idea what was going on. That was first time ever. And I go out for that game. I figured I may get one more in, but I wasn't sure. I go out for that game, and I was like, man, if I screw this up, in your head as a rookie, you screw this up, man. I don't know. When in reality, it doesn't matter. They probably already made their decision anyway. But no, I took a little comebacker. I think it was Abreu or somebody.
Yeah.
And hit off my hand and picked it up, threw it out. I come back in, and Rossi, the skipper at the time, he comes up and he's like, hey, how's your hand? Checking on me, seeing whatever. I was like, man, I'm good. Don't worry about it. I'm good. I said, you need another one? And he was like, no, we'll get you another one in the show. You're going to go to the big leagues. And it was just – didn't expect it because, like I said, I hadn't got the shoulder tap yet. I didn't think he'd do it at that point. And he ended up telling me after that he was hoping I gave up a home run so that he could tell me on the mound. And I was like, oh, thanks. But yeah, at that point, everything kind of comes full circle. And anybody that's had that kind of understands what I'm talking about. It's a blessing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you guys put in so much work, and it's so hard. The amount of people that just don't make it to the majors. I mean, I'm sure you've had plenty of teammates that are just kind of done playing now, and to finally realize you're going to make it to the show is just such a big deal. So you're on the opening day roster in 2022. Was that the first time you had ever been to Wrigley Field?
I went there when we were in South Bend on our All-Star break. I actually took my family there and did a walk around.
But this was the first time inside, seeing the clubhouse and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's an incredible clubhouse. And so your MLB debut, you come out in the 9th inning, Wrigley Field. The Cubs are up 9-0 against the Brewers. Do you remember the first batter you faced?
Oh, yeah, Yelich. And we had already been warned. And I smoked him in the foot.
you hit Christian Yelich in the foot, which endeared you greatly to Cub fans there. You get the double play. You end up getting the final outs. And what was it like for you coming out of that bullpen for the first time at Wrigley Field? The gates open up, you get out there, and the fans are all screaming. What do you remember from that moment?
I'd kind of describe moments like that and big moments and big games and stuff. Obviously, that's not really a big game or a close game or nothing, but it's my first one. So it's kind of similar. You get out there and you kind of feel like you can't take a deep breath. Your muscles want to kind of just around your ribs. And you just kind of have to really feel your breath and really feel your air going in your lungs and out so you don't kind of just tense up and ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, ball 4. It's very easy to do. I've done it before too. And, you come up and you're facing a guy like Yelich. He's a good player. Threw the right pitch. He didn't move his foot. Whatever. If you want to be that way, that's fine. No. But, no, it was good. And then, you come out of the bullpen, you hear the bleachers behind you. It just kind of gives you a little bit more reassurance that you belong where you're at, where your feet are. And you record the last out. You get to hear the song. There's nothing like it. It's a special place to play.
Yeah, and I got a picture up here for anyone watching the 670 The Score YouTube channel. There you are, Ethan, with Wilson Contreras giving you that congratulatory handshake. So that's got to be just an amazing moment. Now, you pitched 9 games in April for the Cubs. You pitched back-to-back April 28th and 29th, and then on May 2nd, you get put on the IL with right shoulder inflammation. Yep. When did you feel like something was wrong with your arm in that situation?
I mean, as a rookie, you don't ever want to, skip, It's the first month of the season. I'm the young guy, and all these old guys are trucking along, man. But I kind of had a good pinch in my shoulder for probably a week or two. That first few outings of the season felt great, and then you can kind of tell as I start to feel it, kind of start to miss spots, kind of start to give up some barrels. I ended up having a shoulder impingement and rehabbed in Arizona for about a month or so once I hit the IL. So.
And then you go to Iowa and it right away something's clearly wrong. And when do you find out you have to have Tommy John surgery?
I mean, I knew it when I did it, but yeah, I got 4 pitches into a rehab assignment coming back from the shoulder impingement, and come in and you can feel, your elbow just kind of bouncing around. Like I knew in my head exactly what happened. Getting with the right doctor, with the doctor that I wanted to go with, took about 3 weeks. He was on vacation, so I had surgery. I tore it. I think it was June 28th, and then I had surgery like the 3rd week of July. So
now Tommy John has become so common in baseball, but it is a difficult process. It's a surgery, and again, that's your career, is your arm. I mean, and you take a look here at some pictures afterwards. It's a big deal, and so when that happens. How concerned are you and what's the difference physically and mentally when you're kind of going through the process?
It's probably the hardest thing rehab wise that I've had to do. It's tough. It's a lot of throws. It's a lot of going to PT and they're cranking your arm around. Your arm don't want to move. It's kind of stuck. Everything's tight. It's tough. It's definitely a hard process, but sorry, what were you saying?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so once you kind of get like your first 6 months, you don't throw anything, and so you're just going in doing the same thing every day. It's very, ugh. And then once you start throwing, it gets a little better. But you got a lot of bullpens you have to throw. You got a lot of throws you have to make. Once you get to your bullpens, all that other stuff is tough physically and mentally. But once you get to your bullpens, you can recover and do whatever. But like mentally trusting yourself and trusting your arm and trusting that you can kind of let a baseball go out of your hand as hard as you want is a tough hurdle to go over mentally. Yeah, for sure.
So, you make your first appearance again competitively on May 11th for the Arizona Complex League, and our friend Rich Biesterfeld was there, and he sent me a couple pictures of you there. And I just got this picture right here where you just look so happy to just be back. I mean, that has to be just such a huge moment for you.
Dude, it is. And that was, if you're down there in Arizona, you don't really want to travel to pitch in a rehab game, but I loved it. I traveled all the way to Goodyear and pitched out there. I threw 5 pitches, and I wish I could have thrown 50. Kind of the same thing. Once I got back, I just sit back out here like with these guys. I pitched 1 game in AA, and then pitched a couple innings here. Now there hasn't been 1 round of BP I haven't stayed out and watched because I hadn't seen it in a long time. So,
and again, now you're in Iowa, and while you were rehabbing and all that stuff, and you're starting to come back, I know that you throw a couple different pitches. You work on your cutter a lot, sweeper and curveball. Is there anything that they had you working on while you were rehabbing?
Really maintaining fastball shape, location with a sweeper. And I've been working on a changeup. I don't throw the curveball anymore. I've been working on a changeup, so it's like cut, ride, slider, changeup.
Now, Ethan, one of the first times I really kind of said, like, this is a dude, like, this is a guy that's like special, like not just on the field, but off the field. I've been going to CubsCon for decades. And I remember, I think it was 2022, all of a sudden there you are in kind of the lobby, and you are, opening packs, trading with fans. In this picture, you can see our friend Bo right there, 1 million Cubs. What got you into that baseball card hobby, and what made you decide to kind of do this at Cubs convention?
Well, I got my first card a little bit before that, toward the end of the year of, was that 22? So yeah, I kind of got into it with my cards and connected with Bo. Bo puts me in a group with a bunch of Cubs guys. We kind of all just talk cards and stuff. And, it's something like I carry around with me now, and guys in the clubhouse are like, dude, what's in that box? And they want to look at it. It's cool. And, but yeah, man, it's a fun hobby. There's a lot worse things you could be doing for sure.
When you collect the cards, are you looking for teammates, guys that you've pitched against, or just all in everything?
I've collected a few teammates. I've got a good amount of a few guys that I played with, and I've played with like two of mine that I try and keep. Actually, three are Morel, Amaya, and Nelson.
Nice.
So Morel is my son's favorite player ever. So he comes up to him, that's my buddy, you know. So to be able to have that for him is cool.
You know, one thing too is that the Iowa Cubs team that you're on right now has a heck of a lot of talent. If people are thinking about coming out to Principal Park to see the Iowa Cubs, what would you say as far as the experience right now with this team going on? What's fun and exciting going out there?
I mean, if you want to see PCA running to every base faster than any person on the planet, or Canario hitting the ball in the river, Mervis hitting one over the scoreboard, and CJ closing out every game he goes out there for, yeah, it's pretty fun to watch. So, yeah, we got really good players here. Obviously, Brennan's been heating up. Yeah, we got a lot of really good players here for sure.
And how often do you think about being back at Wrigley? I mean, like, AAA, that's the last stop, and the Cubs definitely need some bullpen help right now. It's been some ups and some downs. Have you kind of let yourself think that far ahead about returning to Wrigley?
I mean, man, it's a long year. Everybody here has the talent to play in the big leagues. It's just the need and the right time. Every single person here in this bullpen, every single person here is a starter could pitch in the big leagues. And sometimes I believe with this ABS down here, it's harder to pitch here than it is in the big leagues. So to me, it's crazy, man. This ABS is tough, especially on the first 3 days with no challenge. It's hard. It's like throwing through a shoebox.
Right. And so for listeners that may not know, the ABS, automatic ball strike system, there's a challenge system. And so when you watch the hitters, are they being pretty successful with their challenges?
It depends on late in the game. Usually they'll miss a few because they just want to try and get that extra ball or extra strike. Early on in the game, they're pretty on, and umpire keeps the umpire in check for sure. But I mean, like I said, you look at Sayers at bat the other day on the 0-1 pitch that was 4 inches outside. That's not even close here. So right. Then he goes to 1-1 and it's a whole different at bat. So, but yeah, man, everybody here has got the talent to pitch in the big leagues. There's no question about that. Once you get to AAA, there's definitely the talent factor. Everybody's got it. So to say that I would love to pitch in the big leagues this year and love to get there as soon as I can, absolutely, everybody does. But it's just a matter of what the team needs. And if I'm what the team needs eventually, awesome. But I'm 3 innings in off TJ, and so I'm just kind of rolling with the punches.
Well, I'm going to head down to Principal Park and watch you guys because I really love that team. Excited. I love the ballpark and the people. Just the fans in Iowa are just absolutely phenomenal. But, Ethan, I really appreciate you jumping on here, taking a little bit of time to talk with us. And, like I said, there's a lot of Cub fans that just kind of feel that connection, that bond with you, and we're all rooting for you and hoping to see you up at Wrigley Field sooner rather than later.
Well, I appreciate it, y'all, man. I couldn't imagine playing in front of another fan base other than this, honestly, because I've been here this is my 7th year, and it's been nothing but awesome. I have no complaints whatsoever. Met a lot of good people, and no matter what happens, I always still keep in touch, so.
And we appreciate you, Ethan, and good luck to you.
I appreciate it, man.
This is season 3, episode 43 of the Fly the W670 podcast. Cub fans let down in the loo. Don't forget to download, review, subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670gmail.com. Maybe watch us. That's right. You can watch the show on 670 The Score, the YouTube page. All right, Crawly. So after another sweep, another losing series, how do the standings look?
Not good. The Brewers are still in first place at 30-21. The Cubs are 27-25, 3.5 games back. They're now only 2 games over 500. And St. Louis just creeping up here, 24-26, 5.5 games back. Pirates are 25-28, and the Reds in the basement at 23-30. So, the Cubs, as we talked about, did get some reinforcements. Drew Smyly activated he's back for the first time since April 23rd. Jose Cuas, who some Cub fans were not happy with, he gets sent down to AAA. I thought that was interesting because usually it's the last guy to make it on the roster is the first one that gets sent back down. But no, they keep Porter Hodge. Jose Cuas is going to work on some things. On Friday, Jordan Wicks threw 2 scoreless innings for Iowa. He threw 33 pitches, gave up 2 hits, and had 3 strikeouts. Also thrown on for the I-Cubs on Friday was Daniel Palencia, who threw 24 pitches and struck out 3 batters. But getting Jordan Wicks would be obviously a boon to the rotation.
Yeah, Jordan Wicks coming back and Palencia coming back. He's got that swing and miss stuff that a lot of the bullpen is missing. Those are two guys I'd like to see up sooner than later.
Right. And speaking of rehab outings, Keegan Thompson worked a scoreless inning for the Cubs on Sunday. He had some viral infection and he got really weak after that. And so they had him kind of go work on, building his strength back up. So hopefully, more these guys are going to come up and help out. But unfortunately, none of those guys can hit.
Mm-mm.
That's the problem. So
yeah, where is the hitting help coming from? And well, you know who might help hitting? PCA. Guys on fire in the minors right now. Absolute fire.
Right. No doubt about that. The one thing I always just tell people about is just pump the brakes in the fact that I think the Cubs are doing a better job that they did the first time than the last time they had that core come up. Is that when you come up, it's totally different. And when you have a weakness, they will pound you. But the difference is when you're facing AAA, they're going to make a lot more mistakes than the major league guys. PCA's they want him to work on pitches at the top of the zone. And so if PCA gets regular playing time, he's going to get pounded at the top of the zone, and that's going to be an issue. Remember how hot Matt Mervis was. He comes up and really just struggles. So I don't have a problem with that. I know PCA can hit AAA pitching. I want him just to focus on the strike zone, and he'll come up in good time. But that's what you did when you got Cody Bellinger back, is you knew that would mean a lot less playing time for Cody Bellinger or for PCA.
Yep, I know what you meant. Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's preview this thing, Crawly. It starts this afternoon. We've got the Cubs up north in Milwaukee taking on the first place Brewers.
Yeah, the Brewers have been up and down like the Cubs have in May. Not as bad as the Cubs, but they've kind of cooled off a little bit. They lost series in May to the Cubs, Royals, Astros, and Marlins. They've won series against the Cardinals, Pirates, and their last series was against the Red Sox. They took 2 of 3. They lost a close game yesterday on Sunday by 1 run. So they're still without starters DL Hall and Joe Rosso on the back end of the rotation on the 15-day IL. Reese Hoskins is still on the 10-day IL. They don't have Brandon Woodruff, Wade Miley, and Devin Williams all on the 60-day IL. So, like I said, the Cubs played the Brewers in early May at Wrigley Field. Hayden Wesniewski pitched a great game, but so did Joe Ross. The Cubs had a 1-0 lead going into the 8th. That's when Adbert Alzolay came in with 1 out and allowed 4 singles and 4 stolen bases. You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Cubs lose 3-1. The Cubs bat came alive in the second game with Nico, Morel, and Wisdom all going yard. Jamison Tyone pitched 6 shutout innings. Keegan Thompson gave up 3 runs in relief, but the Cubs held on to win that one 6-5 to even the series. And in the rubber game, the Cubs beat Freddie Peralta and the crew 5-0. Assad pitched 6 innings, a shutout ball. Dansby, Nico, and Morel homered. And remember, that was a game where Freddie Peralta just walked 5 batters. So it was an unusual game for him.
We'll take it.
Yes. When we look at the tail of the tape here, when we talk about hitting, we're looking at hitting average. The Cubs, 228th, they're 25th in majors, and the teams that are behind them are like all last place teams, Dustin. So this, like I said, this can't continue. The Brewers are about 25 points higher. They are 4th in baseball, 255. Dustin, that says a lot too, just about how bad hitting is across the.
I say that's not a huge gap.
No. As far as starting pitching ERA, this one goes to the Cubs. They are 3.48 ERA, 7th in baseball. And again, it's been their saving grace. The Brewers are 4.15. They are 17th in ERA for starting pitching. They just got so many injuries. They got 4 guys out from their staff. So that's kind of where that's come from. As far as the reliever ERA, the Cubs are at 22nd in the league at 4.25 reliever ERA, while the Brewers are 9th with 3.57. Milwaukee can always put together a pen, can't they?
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as fielding, we look at defensive run saves. The Cubs are 25th in the league at -9, and the Brewers are 15th in the league at +6 runs saved. But Dustin, when I look at that, you have 3 categories for the Cubs right now where they're in the bottom third of the league. That's hitting average, reliever ERA, and fielding. And when you talk about hitting average and fielding, they're 25th out of 30 teams. That's why they're losing.
That's why they're losing. I mean, the tail of the tape tells it. The numbers don't lie. The numbers tell you what you are, right? There's no bouncing around that. It kind of is what it is. So this is a 4-game series, Crawly, one of your absolute favorite kind, right?
Right. And
Starts
so,
this afternoon up there, Justin Steele.
yeah, we got Battle of the Lefties, Justin Steele versus Robert Gasser. It's going to be at 3:10 p.m. I will be at Miller Park, aka AmFam, with a bunch of my Club 400 family. And so we're going to hopefully try to bring some luck here. But oh boy, Justin Steele, this is the 5th game back for Justin since coming off the IL. He has yet to get a win. He started 4 games in May and he's 0-2. He's given up homers in the last 3 games. In the last start against Atlanta, he went 6.1 innings and gave up 5 runs on 6 hits. 2 of those runs, though, came after he exited the game. But Justin is 2-2 in 11 games against the Brewers. Willie Adames is 5-22. Christian Yelich, 8-21. William Contreras, 3-10. Justin is 0-1 at AmFam Field with a 2.96 ERA. So doesn't have it's only 1 start, but not a big deal. Robert Gasser takes the ball for the Brewers. He was a 2021 draft pick for the Brewers. He's making his 4th start for Milwaukee. He's 2-0 with a 2.65 ERA with 6 strikeouts in 17 innings. His first start came against St. Louis on May 10th. He went 6 innings of scoreless ball. In his second start in Pittsburgh, he went 5 innings and gave up 1 run. But in his last start, Dustin, he gave up 4 runs on 10 hits and 6 innings pitched. None of the Cubs have seen Gasser pitch. He throws a sinker, sweeper, and a 4-seam fastball. Game 2, I don't know if you saw anything. I did not. I checked last night late. Ben Brown is going for the Cubs. He's 1-1.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything for the Brewers yet, no.
Yeah, he's 1-1 with the 3.20 ERA. He started 5 games with 45 strikeouts and 39.1 innings pitched. He's started 2 games this month against the Mets. He went 4.2 innings. He gave up 2 runs on 3 hits. His last start against Atlanta, he went 4 innings and gave up no runs on 1 hit with 2 walks and 6 Ks. The Brewers have not seen Ben Brown, and Ben has never thrown at AmFam, but the Brewers are TBD at this point in time, so we don't know who the Cubs will face just yet.
Right. Now, do you think is this a bullpen type game, or you think they're going to let him go in this one? Like, if he's going, do you let him get into the 5th or 6th inning, hopefully, right? And then maybe you follow him up with a Kyle Hendricks at that point, who, obviously has had a ton of games against the Brewers and a ton of games up at that ballpark in his career.
I think it's just really going to depend on the score. They have a pitch count that they're going to watch with Ben Brown. They're going to be careful. They don't want to blow this kid's arm out, right? So they're going to be careful with him. But to me, if the Cubs, God forbid, are losing by a lot of runs, then you can put Kyle Hendricks in. I think that, to me, if you get 4 or 5 innings out of Ben Brown, I would like to see Hayden Wesneski piggyback for about 2 to 3 innings, depending on how he's doing.
All right. Then game 3, kind of the marquee pitching matchup of this one. Shota Imanaga, Freddie Peralta. And it's been a long time when we get to Wednesday since we've seen Shota pitch. He was scheduled to pitch on Friday down in St. Louis.
Yeah, and I think it was a good move to kind of just skip that start and give him a little rest. That they said that they would look for those moments, and that moment, presented itself. So Shota, because he didn't pitch, is 5-0 with an MLB lowest ERA at 0.84 in 9 games started. Struck out 58 batters in 5 2/3 innings pitched. In his last 2 starts against Pittsburgh and Atlanta, he gave up 0 runs. This is the first time the Brewers will see Shota Imanaga. Freddie Peralta, 3-3 with a 3.81 ERA with 71 strikeouts and 56.2 innings. The Cubs saw Freddie at Wrigley on May 5th. And as I mentioned earlier, Peralta struggled with his command, going 5 innings pitched, giving up 3 runs on 3 hits with 5 Ks and 6 walks. 2 starts ago against Houston, he struggled, giving up 5 runs on 8 hits with 6 Ks. But he got back on track in his last start in Miami. He gave up 1 run in 7 innings pitched. Freddie is career-wise 5-2 against the Cubs with a 3.50 ERA in 11 starts. Ian Happ, 2 for 22. Dansby Swanson, 0 for 10. Seiya, 2 for 8. And Nico, 4 for 16. You can't give all those guys rest. Freddie throws a 4-seam fastball, a slider, and a changeup.
Thursday afternoon, we got Jamison Tyone afternoon game. So I guess we'll be talking again Thursday after this one.
Yeah, Jamison Tyone is 3-2 with the 2.58 ERA in 7 games started. I thought he did well coming back. He was doing well when he came back from that back problem, but he struggled in his last 3 starts. Gave up 7 runs against Atlanta, 3 runs against Pittsburgh the start before that, and he gave up 3 runs in 5.2 innings on Saturday against the Cardinals. JMO is 4 for 7 in 14 starts against the Brewers with a 3.10 ERA. Christian Yelich, he's going to have to be careful around him. 10 for 23 Willie Adames is 1 for 11, and William Contreras 2 for 8 against Tyone. Bryce Wilson is a 26-year-old righty, originally drafted by the Braves, traded to Pittsburgh, DFA'd by Pittsburgh, and picked up off the scrap heap by the Brewers last season, where he came out of the bullpen. He's doing pretty good this season. He's 3-1 with the 2.86 ERA, 38 strikeouts, and 44 innings pitched. He's appeared in 13 games and started 6, so he's kind of got that swingman role that you've seen with Ben Brown as well. His last start on May 18th versus the Astros, he went 4.2 innings, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits. The start before that on May 12th, he went 4 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits against the Cardinals. Bryce is 1-2 against the Cubs with a 5.55 ERA in 6 games started. Ian Happ is 5 for 12. Patrick Wisdom 2 for 10. Seiya 2 for 9.
So again, not fantastic, but that leads us into hot and not. And the good news is that Ian Happ is looking like he's headed in the right direction. And again, you mentioned earlier about how Happ plays in the division, and these are 4 big division games coming up.
Yeah, Ian Happ is 6 for his last 15 with 2 home runs, 3 RBI. So he's slashing 400, 471, 1,000. After that, you would say that Mike Tauchman is doing well, 6 for his last 17, 3 RBIs. He's slashing 353, 421, 353. And we mentioned how Dansby's doing pretty good, in a limited sample size, 5 for his last 17. He's slashing 294, 333, 353. But after that, Dustin, once you get to Nico Horner, I mean, Nico's slashing. He's batting 222. Seiya Suzuki 174. Cody Bellinger 3 for his last 21, 143. Christopher Morel 1 for his last 16. Those are, when you talk about Nico and Seiya and Cody and Christopher Morel, Michael Busch 1 for his last 11. These are guys that are supposed to be hitting, and they're not.
They're not. They're just not making contact, not getting the ball in a safe place where the defender cannot get to it. So, and we're also, don't forget the Cubs catching crew, right? I mean, they could just have a permanent spot, unfortunately, on this not list.
I agree. And here's the problem, Dustin, is that if you have good defense and you can shut down the base running and all that stuff, you don't worry about a catcher hitting, right?
But
they're struggling in those areas
mm-hmm.
too. So now you got catchers that are, not playing good defense. Teams are stealing at will, and they're not hitting. That's a trifecta of bad from the catcher position.
Yes, it's just not good enough at all. I mean, not good enough at all.
Right. As far as the Brewers are concerned, Blake Perkins is their center fielder. He's 5 for his last 17. Willie Adames always hits pretty good, especially against the Cubs. He's 7 for his last 25. A lot of the Brewers hitters are roughly in the last week, they've roughly been hitting about 270, 275, the majority of them, especially compared to the Cubs. So they're not in bad shape. But Dustin, you talk about like PCA, and we've talked about Matt Mervis and some of these young guys coming up. It's a learning curve, and the cold for the Brewers are a lot of these young guys that they brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Ortiz is 4 for his last 17. Bryce Terang, 2 for 12. Sal Frelick, 2 for 13. And Jackson Churio, the guy they signed to the big deal, he's 1 for his last 15, hitting point.
Let's hope that keeps happening, right? Let's have that cold streak go on for another 4 days. That's for sure.
Right. And so when you have these young guys up, it's hard to learn on the fly. And I just think people, when you're trying to win a division like Milwaukee is, you just don't have time to let these guys work the kinks out, So that's why I'm not so upset about the PCA thing. But hopefully, like you said, those guys stay cold and the Cubs can take advantage of that.
All right. Prediction time, Crawly. We got 4 big games coming up. First one this afternoon. I'll go first. I'm going to say split. I'm going to say 2-2. I think that would be, you feel real good as a Cubs fan if you got out of there with a split. But I think today, really important, right? You got to really, hopefully that flight was probably very quiet all the way back. This is a business trip, and you really got to get your head on straight. You got that extra off day on Friday. So you got to get your head on straight. And I think it's important. The Brewers are reeling too. They lost a game on Sunday afternoon, so they're not coming in here red hot either.
No, both teams have kind of had their up and down in Mays. That's why the Cubs have had such a bad month, but they're, again, 3.5 back. But there's only so long we can say, okay, well, they're only 2 back. They're only 3 back. They're only 4. Sooner or later, that's going to just start slipping away. I'm going to go with the Brewers taking 3 out of 4 because
Crawly, come on.
Dustin, until I see somebody start hitting, how can I sit there and pick a team that has literally 5 or 6 everyday players batting under 200? I can't do it until I start seeing some guys really starting to swing the bat.
Well, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on the socials, Fly the W on Facebook, Instagram. We're on Twitter, of course, as well. You can email us, flythew670gmail.com. And now you can watch us, that's right, by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, have a good rest of your Memorial Day weekend. For all those that have served our country, we thank you for doing that, and enjoy friends and family the rest of the way.
Yes, absolutely. And I will be heading to Milwaukee. I am going to be cheering for the Cubs. I'm going to be at AmFam. I'm going to be cheering for Craig Counsell, and hopefully the Cubs can come away and prove me wrong. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!